So, you all were here when I presented my short-term project on iReady, just looking at what research questions we want to answer. So now my long-term project is on the whole implementation of the program. So we went into what is iReady. So iReady is an online resource that enhances the learning of students K through 12 in reading and math. iReady, it gives the educator a better understanding of what a student knows and what they don't know. iReady provides a diagnostic test to help determine where the students are academically in reading and math, and customizes lessons that are standards-based. It also helps educators tailor the teaching in the classrooms by providing data and targeted resources for individual students. Some of the teacher benefits for the program, it'll help the teachers create goals and objectives for students who have IEPs, so if they are lacking in reading or math, it helps them create some goals. It would also provide some baseline data for goals. It will assist students who are falling behind in basic reading and math skills, and also delivers differentiated instruction. This is all tailored to the individual student. Some of the benefits for a leader of the building, for a principal or department chair, it will provide your team with real-time data that informs instructional decisions and enables intentional conversations between teachers and students. iReady empowers you and your teachers by connecting assessment data to personalized digital learning and teacher-led instructions. So what is the purpose of this? So the purpose is to get the baseline data on the grade level of special ed students in math and reading, to see if the program will show growth in students' reading and math skills over the course of the school year, and to see if teachers are able to incorporate the iReady program into their daily schedules. So next I want to go on to the iReady website to kind of see what are some of the research showing. And I was really specifically looking at just special ed, because a lot of our programs that are out there for students to help bridge the gap between math and reading is just for more general education students, and they really don't give you the data of showing how it really affects students with special needs. So this graph right here is showing the student growth on iReady in reading for special education students. This diagnostic was done during the 2013-14 school year, and the green bar shows you the overall growth of special education students who had at least 25 weeks between their first and last diagnostic. And then the orange line is the average student growth growth in iReady based on the national sample. So if you can see, the special ed students have exceeded the average growth for the iReady program. Next, I also looked at this for the math as well, and you can see again, the students' growth is the green bars, and then the orange line is showing what the average growth should have been for each student. And the average growth is based on what their first diagnostic test looks like. So as you can see, they have exceeded this as well in math. I also looked at some different studies that were done, excuse me, for students. So this one was done within New York State as a validity study. And this study was conducted to determine two research questions. So the first question was, are iReady diagnostic scores correlated with the scores of the New York State English, Language, Arts, and Mathematics assessments administered to students in 2016? And then, can iReady diagnostic scores be used to accurately predict students' proficiency in the 2016 New York State ELA and math assessments? The study was conducted across 11 districts and 55 schools. The students consisted of students within grades 3 through 8. The demographics of students were varied. One thing I was really wondering was how much time they used the program within their study, but the research did not state like how much time was utilized each week for the program. But the results of the study had showed that the iReady diagnostic scores are strongly correlated with the scores of the New York State assessments and can be used to accurately predict and classify students' proficiency in the 2016 New York State ELA and math assessments. This study also demonstrated that the spring iReady diagnostic cut scores range can provide predictive information about the percentages of students that will reach proficiency measured by the New York State assessments. Another study that was completed was the iReady Diagnostic Smarter Balance Assessment Consortium validity study. And this was presented in 2017, and their research questions were similar to the one from New York State. So they were wanting to see if the diagnostic scores correlated with their assessments, and then also can it be accurately predicted for the students' proficiency as well. In this study, the researchers analyzed the relationship between iReady diagnostic scores and the 2016 SBAC scores for over 37,000 students in grades 3 through 8. The students in the sample were enrolled in 118 schools across 10 districts and 3 different states. They're from California, Connecticut, and Washington. And this study provides strong validity that supports the iReady program. The third one I looked at was the iReady Diagnostic Partnership for Assessment and Readiness of College and Careers, that's PARC. This study, research questions were just kind of the same as the last 2 research questions. And the researchers analyzed the relationship between the iReady diagnostic scores and the 2016 PARC scores for over 37,000 students in grades 3 through 8. The students in this sample were enrolled in 137 schools across 14 districts and 4 different states. So this one was done within Colorado, Maryland, New Jersey, and Illinois. The results of the diagnostic scores for the fall, winter, and spring and the PARC ELA literacy and mathematics scores are highly correlated. So the average spring scores was a 0.79 for ELA and 0.83 for mathematics. So these correlations provide support and for strong predictive and concurrent validity of the program as well. So all 3 research studies have shown that the iReady scores correlate with whatever their state's assessments are, and it is predictable that they are going to make those gains in their growth. So the research questions that I was looking for once I completed this study was, will the relationship between the number of minutes spent on iReady each week improve the students' pre and post diagnostic scores? And will the students meet their targeted growth determined by the fall iReady diagnostic test for the school year? So some background information about who was participating in this study. So it was students from Sweet Apple Elementary. The students are in grades K through 5. Students are all special ed students, and students are all being served in a program for students with severe autism and emotional behavior disorders. And also, this is not the homeschool for any of the students that's in this program. So after sitting down, our team decided let's look at some steps for implementation. So these are the steps that we followed. So we started off with the students completing the first diagnostic in the fall for reading and math. After diagnostic, that would determine, where the students are, and we'll give them lessons based on that. So then the students will work individually for 45 minutes a week in each subject area. So they'll do 45 minutes in math and 45 minutes in reading. Teachers will complete one iReady teacher-led lesson each week in the area that students in their classroom struggles with according to the diagnostic data. So teachers will turn in a weekly form for their caseload students that show how much time each student has completed in the program for each week and the lesson that they provided. So within the lessons, when we get to the next slide, they kind of show you where the deficit areas could fall into, and that will give the teachers a better understanding of what lessons they should provide each week for the students. Next, we looked at the students will complete the second diagnostic in the winter for reading and math. After that diagnostic, we'll continue working with the 45 minutes lessons. And then the teachers will complete the iReady teacher-led lessons as well. And then we will go on to the third and final diagnostic that we will complete in the spring. So here is some information from our diagnostics. So this is from the first diagnostic test for math. The diagnostic test gives you a breakdown of what areas we're testing and how many students are performing more than a year below grade level, less than a year below grade level, or on or above average. So if you look at the scores here, it gives you the overall math score, and it shows you that 8 students are more than a year below, 2 are less than a year below, and there's 1 on level. And then it kind of breaks down to the different areas that were within the test. So there was number and operations, algebra and algebraic thinking, measurement and data, and geometry. The second diagnostic test is for reading, and this one again, it gives you the same thing, that they're below grade level, above, or close to. So the overall rating, we had 8 that were greater than 1 level below, 2 that were less than 1 level below, and we had 2 that were on or above grade level. And again, it gives you the breakdowns of the different subtests. So this is where the teachers can look at and see, okay, what area were most of our kids struggling with? And if you look at this bottom 2, they both had 9 students that were struggling with comprehension, which is either literature or informational text. So these are the areas that the teachers would pull separate lessons on to provide whole group instruction to help bridging that gap. So then we did the second diagnostic, which we had in the winter. So after the first one, we did that one. They did the lessons for minutes a week, and now these are our results from the second one. So this one, as comparison to the first diagnostic in math overall, we went from when we had 8 students that were greater than 1 grade level below, we went from 8 to 4. And then for less than 1 year level below, we went from 2 to 3. And then on or above grade level, we went from 1 to 5. So you can see we have made some great gains with students helping bridge that gap. One of the only variables difference was that in the fall test, we only had 12 students in the window, and then this one was 13, so we had added a new student. Okay, here's the same documentation for the reading diagnostic. So we went from 8 students that were greater than 1 level below to 3. We went from 2 that were less than 1 level below to 5. And then for on level or above, we went from 2 to 5. So again, you can see that the students have made gains from the fall to the winter. So here's a summary of the growth. So when you do the first diagnostic, it gives you an overall achievement of where they want you to be at by the end of the year. So for our growth in math between our fall and our mid-year, the overall grades beginning of the year, mid-year, increased by 31. The projected goal was for us to increase by 36. So with us having this a large amount of gain from fall to the mid-year, I'm predicting that we will achieve the goal or exceed the goal for the end of the school year. We are currently in the middle of doing our third diagnostic. So once we have those results, I'll share those scores with you as well to see where we have moved from the 31 or how far we have moved up. In reading, our overall projected goal was 39. By mid-year, we have increased by 63. Like, this is huge. So we have actually went above and beyond the projected goal for the school year in reading. So this is really exciting for the students and the staff to see these scores. So, back to my research questions. So the first one was, will the relationship between the number of minutes spent on iReady each week improve the students' pre and post diagnostic scores? So currently, I do not have the post scores for the end of the year. As we said, we're in the middle of doing our third diagnostic right now. But according to the data collected from the mid-year, the answer to this question is yes. The second research question I had proposed was, will the students meet their targeted growth determined by the fall iReady diagnostic scores for the school year? And again, we don't have the scores as of right now, but looking at the gains that we have made in the math and reading, I think we predicted we are going to meet our target growth. So what are our next steps? So now that we see that the program actually works, with us doing it 4 minutes a week, the students are making gains, where do we want to go next? So some next steps we're going to look at is comparing the pre and post scores once the post is completed, continue with the plan in place for elementary students, complete the data analysis for middle school students. So now we did this study in elementary and we see we're doing really well there. So now we want to kind of move over to see how well our middle school students doing with this. So next school year, I want to kind of compare the results of the Georgia Milestones Reading and Math test to the iReady Math Reading and Math to see if there is a direct correlation. And then continue the study next year with schools who are adopting the tool in Fulton County and compare their scores of general education students to special ed students. So some of the schools in Fulton County are now piloting the iReady program with reading in some of the schools. So I know next year we may have more schools. So I'd love to see what their scores are looking at compared to our scores. All right, and here are some of the references for where I received some of my information and research information. all on their iReady website. And do anyone have any questions? All right, thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to sharing with you our end of the year results.